They laughed when she couldn't name the vintage. 3 minutes later, she was the only thing standing between them and death. The crystal shattered first, then the illusions. In the amber glow of Chicago's most exclusive dining room, Elena Voss was invisible. Black uniform, quiet hands, a ghost serving gods. They mocked her about wine pairings, about not belonging in their world of marble and money. Billionaire Harold Keene's laughter cut through Chopin like a knife through silk. She didn't flinch, didn't correct him, just refilled his glass with steady hands while her pulse stayed flat as lake ice. But the air tasted wrong, too still, like gunpowder before the spark. Then the door exploded inward. Ski masks, shotguns, screaming, and while everyone hit the floor, the titans, the celebrities, the untouchables, Elena Voss stood perfectly still in the center of the chaos, tray balanced, eyes calculating, not frozen, waiting. Before we begin, I invite you to follow this story to the very end. Like this video and comment your city below, so I can see how far this tale travels across the world. The Aurelius was the kind of restaurant where silence cost more than sound. Located on the 43rd floor of the Millennium Tower, it floated above Chicago like a temple to excess. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city in sheets of glass and altitude. White tablecloths fell in perfect angles. Candles flickered in hand-blown holders from Murano. The silverware alone could fund a semester at state school. Elena Voss moved through it like smoke. Table 6 needed water. Table 12, another bottle of the '09 Chateau Margaux, the one that cost what most people made in 3 months. Table 3 had sent back their Dover Soul twice. She handled it all with the same expression. None. Excuse me. The voice came from the VIP section, the corner booth reserved for people whose names moved markets. Elena turned, tray tucked against her ribs. Harold Keene leaned back in his chair like a king in exile. Mid-50s, silver at the temples, suit worth more than a sedan. Hedge fund royalty. The kind of man who bought buildings the way other people bought coffee. Yes, sir? This wine. He lifted the bottle, squinting at the label with theatrical confusion. Can you tell me about the terroir? His 3 companions, 2 men in navy suits, 1 woman in crimson silk, smirked into their glasses. Elena's face stayed neutral. It's a Bordeaux blend, sir, predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon. Notes of blackcurrant, tobacco, and... I didn't ask for the sales pitch. Keene's smile had edges. I asked about the terroir, the soil composition, microclimate. You know, the things someone working in a place like this should understand. Silence stretched, thin, dangerous. I apologize, sir. I can get the sommelier. No, no. He waved a hand heavy with a watch that could buy a house. I'm just surprised. They let anyone work here now, don't they? Laughter rippled around the table. Not loud. Cultured. The kind that cut deeper. Elena's jaw didn't tighten. Her shoulders didn't rise. She'd been insulted by better men in worse places. This was just dinner theater for the bored and wealthy. Will there be anything else? That'll be all? Keene turned back to his companions, dismissing her like yesterday's news. She walked away. Smooth, even. No quickened step, no tremor in her hands. Just muscle memory from a life where showing weakness meant something worse than humiliation. Behind her, the laughter continued. Did you see her face? Absolutely blank, like talking to a robot. That's what passes for service now? Elena pushed through the swinging doors into the kitchen. Heat and noise crashed over her. Sizzling pans, shouted orders, the controlled chaos of a brigade running at full sprint. She set down the tray. You good? Marco, the sous chef, glanced up from a reduction sauce. Fine. Keene giving you trouble again? He's a guest. He's an asshole. Marco wiped his hands on his apron. 3rd time this month he's pulled that wine snob routine. Like we don't know he can't tell Bordeaux from boxed Franzia. Elena allowed herself the ghost of a smile. He's paying for the experience. Yeah, well, the experience of being a dick should cost extra. She reached for the next order ticket, but Marco caught her wrist. Gentle. The way you'd stop someone from touching a hot pan. You don't have to take it, you know. Elena? You don't. For just a second, something flickered behind her eyes. Something old and tired and very, very far from here. "Yes," she said quietly, "I do." Because bills didn't care about pride. Neither did rent, or her mother's care facility in Naperville, where the nice nurses with soft voices cost $8,000 a month and Medicaid didn't cover the dignity of a private room. Marco let go. Table 9 needs their appetizers. Elena nodded and lifted the tray. Back through the doors, back into the golden light and manufactured perfection of the Aurelius, where people like Harold Keene played games with people like her because they could. The night rolled on. She served pan-seared scallops to a tech CEO who didn't look up from his phone, cleared plates for a retired actress who whispered about carbs like they were personally betraying her, smiled blankly at a couple celebrating their anniversary by arguing in hushed, vicious tones about a lake house in Michigan. By 9:30, her feet ached. The kind of deep, bone-tired ache that came from 8 hours on marble floors in shoes designed to look elegant, not functional. But she didn't limp, didn't lean, just kept moving. "Elena!" She turned. Gerard, the floor manager, approached with the expression of a man delivering bad news wrapped in politeness. "Table 6 needs a fresh bottle." The Margot again. Of course they did. She descended into the wine cellar, a temperature-controlled vault beneath the restaurant that held bottles worth more than some people's houses. Found the Margot. Checked the vintage twice. Carried it up with both hands like it might explode. When she returned to the VIP section, Keene was in the middle of a story. So I told him, "If you can't handle volatility, get out of equities." The man nearly had a stroke. More laughter. Some people just aren't built for high-stakes environments. Elena approached, bottle cradled. "Your wine, sir." "Ah," the robot returns. Keene gestured lazily. "Pour." She unwrapped the foil, extracted the cork with a soft pop, poured a taster into his glass. 2 ounces, the color of garnets in candlelight. Keene swirled it, sniffed, sipped, made a show of considering. "Acceptable?" Elena filled the other glasses. "You know," Keene said, not looking at her, "there's a certain art to service. A grace. It's not just about carrying plates. It's about understanding your place in the ecosystem." His companions watched, waiting for the punchline. "Some people have it. Others..." He finally met her eyes. "Well, others are just going through the motions, aren't they?" Elena's hand didn't shake. The wine poured in a perfect stream, silent and controlled. "Will there be anything else, sir?" "No, you can go back to being invisible now." She turned, walked away. Each step measured and calm, but something behind her sternum had gone very, very quiet. 10:15. The restaurant began its slow decline toward closing. Guests lingered over dessert wines and espresso. The kitchen downshifted from roar to simmer. Elena cleared tables with the same mechanical precision she'd maintained for 6 hours. That's when the air changed. She felt it first in her spine, that primal warning system that had nothing to do with logic and everything to do with survival. The kind of instinct you couldn't train into someone. You either had it or you learned why you needed it. She paused mid-reach for a dessert plate, scanned the room, nothing obvious. The guests looked the same, bored, wealthy, safe in their bubble of privilege and security deposits. But something was wrong. Elena's eyes tracked to the entrance, the host stand. The maitre d' was checking his reservation book, oblivious. The security guard, a retired cop named Dennis, who mostly worried about valets and celebrities, leaned against the wall, half asleep. Then she saw them. 3 men. Standing just inside the entrance, not moving, not speaking. They wore dark clothes, jackets too heavy for the season, hands in pockets. One of them looked directly at her. Elena's pulse didn't spike. It flattened. Her brain shifted into a different gear. Cool, analytical. The same mode that used to kick in when the convoy slowed too fast on the wrong street, or when the interpreter started sweating for no visible reason. She counted exits, calculated fields of fire, noted cover versus concealment. Table 8, 2 children. Table 12, elderly couple. VIP section, 4 adults, mobile but soft. The 3 men moved, not toward tables, toward position. Elena set down the dessert plates. Slowly. Her weight shifted to the balls of her feet. "Hey!" Marco's voice crackled through her earpiece, the discreet comm system the wait staff used. "You see those guys?" She tapped her ear twice. "Yes." "Something's off. I'm calling." The lights went out, not all of them, just enough. The chandeliers dimmed to half power, throwing the restaurant into amber twilight. Emergency lighting kicked in along the baseboards, casting everything in deep shadow and sickly yellow. And then the 3 men pulled out guns. "Everybody down! Now! Hands where we can see them!" The scream shattered the carefully maintained illusion of safety like a brick through stained glass. Chaos erupted. A woman shrieked, chairs scraped, glass shattered as someone knocked over a bottle in panic. The whole room seemed to collapse, all those powerful, important people folding to the floor like paper dolls, all except one. Elena stood in the center of the dining room, tray still balanced on her left hand while pandemonium swirled around her. She wasn't frozen, wasn't panicking. She was counting. 3 hostiles, 2 armed with what looked like Glock 19s, 1 with a sawed-off pump shotgun. Positioning suggests minimal training, standing too close together, blocking each other's lines of fire. The one on the left is sweating. Adrenaline. First time. The leader's grip is wrong. Finger on the trigger, not the guard. Nervous. Dangerous. "I said down!" The leader, tall, ski mask, shotgun, swung toward her. "Are you deaf?" The room held its breath. Someone whimpered from under a table. "Oh my God, she's going to get us killed!" Another voice, harsh whisper. "Just do what they say." Elena's eyes met the leader's through the holes in his mask. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then she slowly lowered herself to one knee, set the tray down, raised her hands to shoulder height, palms open. "Smart girl," the leader sneered. "See? Everyone just stay calm, and we're all going to walk out of here." He turned to his partners. "Phones, wallets, watches, anything worth taking. Move." The other 2 scrambled into action, waving guns, shouting contradictory orders. One of them grabbed a designer purse off a chair and dumped its contents. Lipstick, cards, a phone in a case worth more than the phone itself. Elena stayed on one knee, head slightly bowed, but her eyes tracked everything. The one with the purse, right-handed, gun in right hand, distracted by the loot. The other one's moving table to table, keeping distance from his partner. Good. Harder to hit both at once. The leader staying center, using the shotgun as a psychological tool more than a weapon. 20 feet from me. Optimal range for double-aught buck. I'm in the kill zone. "Please," someone sobbed, a man's voice cracking. "Please, just take it. Take everything." "That's the plan, genius." One of the robbers kicked a briefcase. "Open it." From the VIP section, a different sound, sharper, angrier. Harold Keene. "This is insane. Do you have any idea who you're robbing?" The leader's head snapped toward him. "Yeah, rich assholes. Now shut up and put your Rolex in the bag. I will do no such thing. The shotgun blast was deafening in the enclosed space. The shot went high, punching into the ceiling. Acoustic tiles rained down like snow, but the message was clear. "Next one's not a warning." Keene went white. His hand shook as he fumbled with his watch. Elena watched the leader's body language shift, more aggressive. Adrenaline redlining. The situation was degrading fast. 2 minutes, maybe less, before someone makes a fatal mistake. Either they panic and shoot someone, or a guest does something stupid and gets shot. Need to de-escalate or eliminate the threat. Her fingers flexed slightly. Testing. Muscle memory running through sequences she hadn't used in 3 years. Rear naked choke takes 4 seconds to render someone unconscious if applied correctly. Disarming a shotgun requires closing distance to contact range, risky but doable if his attention is split. The 2 with pistols are a problem, can't engage all 3 simultaneously, need to separate them, create chaos, use their own fear against them. "Yo, hurry up!" the leader barked at his partners. "We're on a clock!" One of them was ransacking the bar, shoving bottles into a duffel bag. Expensive stuff, stupid, heavy, slowing him down. Amateurs. Looking for a payday, not a firefight. That's good. Means that they want out more than they want confrontation. But amateurs are unpredictable. No training means no discipline. No discipline means no control. A child started crying. Quiet. Terrified. Table 8. The family with 2 kids. The little girl couldn't have been more than 6. Elena's jaw tightened. Fractionally. Invisibly. "Shut that kid up," one of the robbers snarled. "She's scared," the mother whispered, voice breaking. "Please, she's just—" "I don't care. Shut her up." The crying got louder. Hiccuping. Panicked. Elena's decision crystallized. She'd stayed down, stayed compliant. Gambled that they'd take the money and run. But now a 6-year-old was in the equation, and scared men with guns and scared children was a combination that ended in tragedy. She had maybe 30 seconds before this went from robbery to murder. Time to move. But first she needed an opening. "Hey!" Her voice cut through the chaos, calm, clear. Not loud, but it carried. All 3 robbers turned toward her. "The safe," Elena said. "Downstairs. That's where the real money is." The leader's eyes narrowed behind the mask. "What's safe?" "Restaurant safe. Cash deposits, credit card receipts. Probably 50,000, minimum. More on a Friday night." She kept her hands visible, her tone helpful. "I can show you." Silence. The robbers exchanged glances. "It's a trap," one of them hissed. "Look at her," Elena said. "I'm a waitress. Minimum wage plus tips. You think I'm going to die for someone else's money?" The leader studied her. Calculating, suspicious, but tempted. "Please," she added, injecting just enough fear into her voice. "Just take it and go. I have a daughter." She didn't. But he didn't know that. "Where?" "Wine cellar. Through the kitchen. 90 seconds down, 90 seconds back." More silence. Then the leader jerked his head at one of his partners. "Go with her. You got 2 minutes." The one who'd been robbing the bar, shorter, twitchy, pistol grip slick with sweat, grabbed Elena's arm. "Try anything. You're dead." "I won't." She let him pull her to her feet. "I promise." They moved toward the kitchen doors. Elena kept her pace slow, unthreatening. Behind them, the other 2 robbers continued working the room, barking orders, collecting valuables. Perfect. The kitchen was dark except for the safety lights. Stainless steel gleamed dully. The space smelled like rendered fat and lemon. "Where?" the robber demanded, gun pressed against her spine. "Through here." Elena led him toward the back, past the prep stations, past the walk-in freezer, to the wine cellar stairs. She opened the door. Yellow light spilled up from below. The temperature-controlled vault hummed quietly. "After you," he said, not stupid enough to turn his back. Elena descended, slow, hands still visible. At the bottom, she stopped. "There." She pointed at the far wall. "Behind the 95 Latours." He squinted. The vault was narrow. Racks on both sides, bottles lying horizontal, labels facing out, cramped space, low ceiling, exactly what she needed. He moved forward, gun leading. And that's when Elena stopped being a waitress. Her left hand came up fast, not at the gun, at his wrist, redirecting. Her right drove into his solar plexus, not a punch, but a strike, all her weight behind it. Air exploded from his lungs. She twisted, spun him, used his own momentum to drive him face first into the wine rack. Bottles shattered. Cabernet exploded like arterial spray. He tried to bring the gun around. Elena trapped his arm against the rack, hyperextending the elbow. Cartilage popped. He screamed. She stripped the gun from his hand with practiced efficiency, reversed her grip, struck him twice behind the ear with the polymer frame. He dropped. The whole sequence. 4 seconds. Elena stood over him, breathing steady, gun in a 2-handed grip aimed at his head. Her finger rested along the frame, not the trigger. Discipline. He groaned, still conscious. She kicked the gun away from his reaching hand. "Stay down," she said quietly, "or I'll make you." His eyes rolled. Blood matted his hair where the bottles had cut him. Elena ejected the magazine, checked it. 15 rounds, 9mm. She slammed it back home, racked the slide, checked the chamber. Loaded and ready, then she pulled out her earpiece, crushed it under her heel. Can't have the others hearing this. She picked up a roll of duct tape from a supply shelf, restaurants always had duct tape, and secured the unconscious robber's hands behind his back. Ankles together, mouth covered, one down, two to go. She moved back toward the stairs, gun low. Controlled breathing. The old training flooded back like muscle memory. CQB, room clearing, threat assessment. She'd done this in compounds in Kandahar, in training houses at Quantico, in scenarios so real the fear sweat felt identical. But this wasn't training. At the top of the stairs, she paused, listened, muffled shouting from the dining room, no gunshots yet. Good. She cracked the kitchen door, peeked through. One robber visible, the leader. Shotgun still up, shouting at Gerard to empty the register. The third one, presumably still in the dining room, collecting loot. Elena ran the numbers. If she engaged the leader, the third one would hear. 2 armed targets, one with a shotgun in a room full of civilians. No good options. She needed to separate them. Draw one away. Elena grabbed a sauté pan from the rack. Heavy, cast iron. She threw it hard against the far wall. Clang. The hell was that? The leader spun toward the kitchen. Perfect. Check it out, he told his partner. Go. Footsteps approached. Fast. Panicked. The kitchen door swung open. Elena was already moving. She came from the side, the blind spot, and drove the butt of the pistol into his temple before he even registered her presence. He staggered. She swept his leg. He went down hard, skull bouncing off tile. Didn't get up. She took his gun too, a Glock 17, checked it, cleared it, slid it across the floor toward the walk-in freezer. 2 down. But the leader had heard. She could hear him shouting, panicked, dangerous. Jake? Jake! Elena moved to the kitchen door, pressed her shoulder against it. Gun up. 1 hostile remaining. Shotgun, 12 gauge, probably 5 shells in the tube. Definitely scared now. Scared means reckless. Reckless means civilians at risk. Can't let him fire into the crowd. She pushed through the door. The leader spun toward her, shotgun rising. Drop it, he screamed. Drop the gun, or I start shooting. Elena stopped, 10 feet away. Too far for hand-to-hand. Too close to miss with a shotgun. The entire restaurant stared. Guests on the floor. Gerard frozen behind the host stand. Dennis, the security guard, unconscious near the entrance, bleeding from his scalp. And Harold Keene, white-faced under the table, watching her with wide eyes. You're the waitress, the leader said, voice cracking. You're just a waitress. Elena kept the gun trained on his center mass. Put it down. Walk away. Nobody else gets hurt. You shot them. You shot Jake, and I didn't shoot anyone. They're alive. Unconscious, but alive. Her voice stayed level. You can walk out of here. Right now. I won't stop you. Bullshit. Look at me. Elena's eyes locked onto his. Do I look like I want to shoot you? His hands trembled. The shotgun wavered. You pull that trigger, Elena continued, and you'll hit me. Maybe. Probably. But I'll put 3 rounds in you before I drop. And you'll bleed out on this marble floor while the paramedics work on me first. Sweat ran down his neck, soaked the ski mask. Or, Elena said softer, you can walk. Out the door. Down the stairs. Into the night. And I'll let you. Why would you? Because I'm tired. It wasn't a lie. And because killing you doesn't solve anything. The silence stretched, fragile, breakable. Then someone moved. Harold Keene, in a moment of catastrophic stupidity, lunged for the robber's leg. The leader stumbled, swung the shotgun down. Elena was already moving. She closed the distance in 3 strides, trapped the shotgun barrel, redirected it upward. The blast went into the ceiling, deafening, raining down plaster and sparks. Her knee came up, connected with his groin. He doubled over. She ripped the shotgun from his hands, spun it, drove the stock into his jaw. He collapsed like a building being demolished. The whole room was white with plaster dust and smoke. Alarms screamed, sprinklers engaged, drenching everything in cold water. Elena stood in the center of it all, shotgun in one hand, pistol in the other, breathing steady while chaos rained down around her. She cleared both weapons, set them on a table, raised her hands. It's over, she said to the room. To no one. To everyone. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. and Harold Keene stared up at her from the floor, soaking wet, covered in plaster dust, looking at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "Who the hell are you?" he whispered. Elena didn't answer. She just stood there in the wreckage, water streaming down her face, while the first police officers burst through the door with guns drawn and harsh lights that turned everything into sharp shadows and glaring truth. And somewhere in the back of her mind, the thought echoed, "This is going to be a problem." The first officer through the door was young, maybe 25. His service weapon shook in his hands as he swept the room, trying to process the scene. Unconscious bodies, broken glass, a dining room that looked like a war zone, and one soaking wet waitress standing in the middle of it all, with her hands raised. "Don't move!" Elena didn't. Her fingers stayed spread, palms open, posture non-threatening. She'd been on the other side of this before, knew how the adrenaline felt, how the training screamed threat assessment while your brain tried to catch up with reality. "Weapons on the floor!" Another officer, older, steadier. "Kick them away." "Already disarmed," Elena said. Calm. No sudden movements. "On the table, 2 pistols, 1 shotgun, all cleared." More officers poured in. 4, 6, 8. They fanned out with tactical precision, securing the room, checking bodies, shouting conflicting orders that somehow resolved into organized chaos. Hostages? Injuries? "Clear the kitchen!" Elena stayed perfectly still while they worked. Water dripped from her hair. Her uniform clung to her like a second skin. She counted her breaths. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. The same rhythm she'd used in briefing rooms before missions when the pre-op anxiety tried to claw its way up your throat. A paramedic rushed past her toward Dennis, the security guard. Blood matted his gray hair, but he was breathing, conscious now, groaning. The guests began to emerge from under the tables, slowly, tentatively, like survivors crawling from rubble. Someone was crying. Someone else was on their phone, voice high and shaking. "3 of them! Guns! I thought we were dead!" And Harold Keene pulled himself up, using a chair, staring at Elena with an expression she couldn't quite read. Shock, maybe. Or calculation. With men like him, it was always hard to tell. "Ma'am." The older officer approached. Name tag read Morrison. Lines around his eyes suggested he'd seen some things. "I need you to lower your hands slowly. Keep them where I can see them." Elena complied. "The suspects are secured, 1 in the wine cellar, 2 in the main dining area. All alive, all restrained." Morrison's eyebrows rose. "You restrained them?" "Yes." "You're a waitress." "I'm a waitress who didn't want to die tonight." He studied her, really looked. And Elena saw the moment his cop instincts kicked in, the subtle shift in posture, the narrowing of eyes that meant he'd spotted something that didn't fit the narrative. "What's your name?" "Elena Voss." Something flickered across his face. Recognition? No, not quite, but close. "Stay right there, Ms. Voss. Don't go anywhere." He turned to coordinate with the other officers, speaking in low tones. Elena caught fragments. 3 suspects neutralized. Civilian action. Need statements from everyone. A detective arrived, then another. Crime scene techs with cameras and evidence bags. The restaurant filled with uniforms and questions and the clinical efficiency of people documenting disaster. Elena stood to the side, dripping water while they worked around her like she was furniture. Gerard materialized from somewhere, pale and shaking. "Elena, my God, are you—" He couldn't seem to finish the sentence. "I'm fine." "You could have been killed. You should have just—" He stopped, swallowed. "Why did you do that?" "Because someone had to." "That's not your job." Elena met his eyes. "Then whose job was it, Gerard?" He didn't answer, just stood there, trembling, looking at her like she'd grown a second head. More paramedics arrived. One of them, a woman with kind eyes and efficient hands, tried to check Elena for injuries. "I'm not hurt." "Ma'am, you were involved in an armed confrontation. Let me just—" "I said I'm fine." Too sharp. Elena softened her tone. "Thank you, but I'm not injured." The paramedic backed off, but the concern in her expression didn't fade. Across the room, the 3 robbers were being loaded onto gurneys. The one from the wine cellar was conscious now, spitting blood and cursing. The second one was still out cold. The leader, the one Elena had dropped with the shotgun stock, groaned as they fitted a neck brace. None of them would die. She'd made sure of that. A young officer approached with a blanket. "Here, you're shivering." She wasn't, but she took it anyway. Draped it over her shoulders because it gave him something to do. Some way to help that made sense in his framework of how the world worked. "That was incredible," he said, voice low, awed. "What you did. I've never seen anything like it." Elena didn't respond. "Are you military? Cops in the family?" "I serve food for a living." He laughed, nervous, unsure if she was joking. When her expression didn't change, the laugh died. Morrison returned. "Ms. Voss, need to ask you some questions." "Of course." He led her to a quiet corner, pulled out a notebook. Old school, no tablet. "Walk me through what happened, from the beginning." Elena recounted it. Factual, chronological, no embellishment. The three men entering, the lights dimming, the guns, her offer to show them the safe, the confrontation in the wine cellar. Morrison wrote it all down. His pen never stopped moving. "And you disarmed the first suspect how, exactly?" "Wrist control. Redirected his weapon hand, struck the solar plexus, used the wine rack as an obstacle to create separation." The pen paused. Morrison looked up. "That's very specific terminology." Elena said nothing. "You've had training, combat training." "I've had a complicated life, Detective." Morrison. Just Morrison. He tapped the pen against his notebook. "Ms. Voss, I've been doing this for 22 years. I've seen a lot of brave people do stupid things in crisis situations. Tackle a gunman. Throw a chair, run at someone shooting. Usually ends badly. Usually. But what you did wasn't stupid. It was controlled, precise. You cleared those weapons like you'd done it 1,000 times." He leaned forward slightly. "So I'm going to ask you again. What's your background?" Elena looked at him, really looked. Saw a man who cared about truth more than convenience, who wouldn't let this go just because it complicated the narrative. "I was military," she said quietly. "Army, long time ago." "What did you do in the Army?" "Things that don't translate well to civilian conversation." Morrison's eyes narrowed. "Were you infantry?" "No." "MPCID?" "Something like that." He waited. Silence stretched. An interrogation technique. Let the quiet get uncomfortable until the subject fills it. Elena had used it herself. She didn't bite. Finally, Morrison sighed. "All right, for now, but this isn't over. The district attorney is going to want a full statement, possibly grand jury testimony." "Am I being charged with something?" "No. But 3 men are in the hospital with injuries you inflicted. Even in self-defense, there are procedures." "I understand." "Do you have a lawyer?" Elena almost smiled. "On a waitress salary?" "No." "You might want to get one." Before she could respond, a commotion erupted near the entrance. Raised voices, someone arguing with the uniformed officer standing guard. "I don't care if it's an active scene. I have a right to speak to my client." A woman pushed through, mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She carried a leather briefcase like a weapon and moved through the chaos with the confidence of someone who owned every room she entered. She zeroed in on Elena. "Elena Voss?" "Yes?" "Carolyn Reeves. I'm your attorney." Elena blinked. "I didn't hire an attorney." "No, someone else did." Carolyn turned to Morrison. "Detective, I need to speak with my client, privately." Morrison's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, this is an active crime scene. And she's a witness, not a suspect. Unless you're charging her." Carolyn's smile had teeth. "No? Then she's free to consult with counsel. Constitutional right. Shall I cite the relevant case law, or can we skip to the part where you give us 5 minutes? Morrison looked like he wanted to argue, but he'd clearly dealt with lawyers like Carolyn before, the kind who knew exactly how far they could push and enjoyed every second of it. 5 minutes. Don't leave the building." "Wouldn't dream of it." Carolyn guided Elena toward the bar area, away from the worst of the chaos. She set down her briefcase and turned with an expression that was half concern, half assessment. "Are you hurt?" "No." "Good. Don't say anything else to the police without me present. Not a word. You understand? Who hired you? Someone who wants to make sure this doesn't blow up in your face. Carolyn pulled out her phone, showed Elena a text message. Get to the Aurelius. Protect the waitress. Money's no object. The number was blocked. Do you know who sent this? Elena asked. No, but whoever it is has excellent taste in legal representation and deep pockets. Carolyn pocketed the phone. Here's what's going to happen. The police will want a formal statement. DA might convene a grand jury to review the use of force. Media's going to lose their minds when they get wind of this. It's got everything they love. Violence, wealth, a working-class hero. I'm not a hero. Doesn't matter what you are. Matters what they'll make you. Carolyn's expression softened slightly. Elena, you're about to become very famous. Very quickly. I need you to be ready for that. Elena's stomach dropped. She'd spent 3 years building a quiet life. Anonymous. Unremarkable. The kind of existence where nobody looked twice, nobody asked questions, nobody dug into what came before. All of that was about to burn. I just want to go home, she said. I know, but first we need to control the narrative. Carolyn glanced toward Morrison, who was watching them. Let me do the talking. You be polite, cooperative, but minimal. Yes. No, I don't recall. Don't volunteer information. Don't try to explain yourself. Just answer what's asked and nothing more. I've given statements before. Carolyn's eyes sharpened. Have you? Elena didn't answer. Right. Carolyn picked up her briefcase. Stay close to me. And Elena, whatever's in your past that you're trying to keep quiet, it's about to get a lot harder to hide. They returned to Morrison. He had backup now, a detective in plain clothes, younger, harder expression. Name tag read Vasquez. Ms. Voss, Vasquez said, we need to take you downtown, get a formal statement on record. My client is happy to cooperate, Carolyn interjected smoothly. But it's nearly midnight. She's been through a traumatic experience. Can this wait until morning? No, Vasquez said flatly. 3 felons are in custody. We need her statement while the events are fresh. Then let's keep it brief. Initial account tonight, detailed follow-up tomorrow with proper preparation. Vasquez didn't look happy, but he nodded. Fine. Let's go. They processed Elena at the district station. Fingerprints. Photos. Basic information. She sat in an interview room with beige walls and fluorescent lights that hummed like angry insects, while Vasquez and Morrison tag-teamed questions. Where are you from? Naperville. Born and raised. Education? High school. Some college. Didn't finish. Military service? Army. 4 years. Honorable discharge. What was your MOS? 31B. Military police. That was a lie. But it was the lie she'd been using for 3 years, and it was close enough to the truth that it held up under casual scrutiny. They asked about tonight. She repeated her account. Carolyn interjected occasionally, shutting down questions that got too personal or probing. Vasquez wasn't buying it. Elena could see it in his eyes. The cop instinct that said something didn't add up. You took down 3 armed men, he said, alone. No backup, no hesitation. I got lucky. Lucky. He smiled. No humor in it. You know how many civilians try to be heroes in situations like this? You know what usually happens to them? They get shot, Elena said quietly. I know. So why risk it? Because they were going to hurt people, and I was the only one in position to stop it. Position, Vasquez leaned back. Interesting word choice. Like you were running an operation. It's just a word. Is it? Carolyn cleared her throat. Detective, my client has been more than cooperative. Unless you're prepared to charge her with something, which would be insane given she saved lives tonight, I think we're done here. Vasquez held Elena's gaze for a long moment. Then he stood. We're done. For now. They released her at 2 a.m. Carolyn walked her out to the parking lot, where TV crews had assembled like vultures. Cameras, microphones, reporters shouting questions. Ms. Voss, how does it feel to be a hero? Were you scared? Did you think you were going to die? Elena kept her head down. Carolyn ran interference, professional and immovable. No comment. My client has no statement at this time. Please respect her privacy. They made it to Carolyn's car, a sleek BMW that probably cost more than Elena made in 2 years. Carolyn drove fast, cutting through empty streets until the media circus faded behind them. Where do you live? Carolyn asked. Elena gave her the address. A studio apartment in Logan Square. Cheap, clean, quiet. When they pulled up outside, Carolyn killed the engine but didn't move to leave. Elena, whoever sent me that text message tonight, they knew this was going to be a problem before it happened. That means they were watching, either you or the restaurant or both. I don't know anything about that. Maybe not, but someone's interested in you, someone with resources. Carolyn pulled out a business card. Call me if anything happens. Anything. Press, police, someone asking questions. I don't care if it's 3 a.m, you call. Elena took the card. Why are you helping me? Because I got paid a lot of money to. Carolyn's expression softened. And because I've seen what happens to people when they get thrown into the media meat grinder. You seem like someone who doesn't deserve that. Elena climbed out, stood on the sidewalk while Carolyn drove away, taillights disappearing into the Chicago night. Her apartment building was a converted brownstone. Narrow stairs, thin walls, the kind of place where you heard your neighbors' entire lives whether you wanted to or not. She climbed to the 3rd floor, unlocked 3 deadbolts, stepped inside. 1 room, kitchenette, bathroom. Futon that doubled as her couch. A TV she never watched. Books stacked against the wall because she'd never bought a shelf. Home. Elena locked the door behind her, engaged the chain. Then she stood in the dark, breathing, while the adrenaline finally started to crash. Her hand shook. Not during, never during, always after. She'd forgotten that part, the way your body saved the fear for later when it was safe to fall apart. Elena walked to the bathroom, turned on the light, looked at herself in the mirror, wet hair plastered to her skull, makeup smeared, uniform stained with wine and plaster dust. She looked like someone who'd survived a disaster. She looked like someone whose life had just complicated beyond repair. Her phone buzzed. She'd silenced it at the police station, but now the notifications flooded in. Texts, voicemails, social media mentions from people she'd never met. One text stood out. Unknown number. You did good tonight, but now they're going to ask questions. Be ready. Elena stared at it, deleted it, blocked the number. But the message stayed in her head. She stripped off the uniform, threw it in the trash, stood under the shower until the hot water ran cold, scrubbing away the night with cheap soap and water pressure that barely qualified as a drizzle. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel, it was almost 4 a.m. She should sleep, but sleep meant dreams, and dreams meant Baghdad, and she couldn't handle that tonight. So she sat on the futon and opened her laptop. The news had already started. Security footage from the restaurant, grainy, partial, but enough. Her face wasn't clear, but her actions were. The headlines wrote themselves. Waitress takes down 3 armed robbers. Unknown hero saves Chicago restaurant. Who is the mystery woman? Elena closed the laptop. This was bad. Worse than she'd imagined. Because fame meant scrutiny. Scrutiny meant background checks. And background checks meant someone, somewhere, would start asking why a decorated former special operations soldier was working minimum wage in a restaurant and living in a studio apartment that cost less than a parking spot downtown. They'd dig. They always did. And eventually, they'd find the parts of her file that were redacted. The missions that didn't have names. The years that officially didn't exist. The things she'd done that she couldn't talk about, couldn't explain, couldn't justify to people who'd never stood in a desert at midnight with bad intelligence and worse options. Her phone rang. She almost didn't answer, but the number was familiar. Her mother's care facility. Hello? Ms. Voss, this is Cheryl, night supervisor at Millbrook. I'm sorry to call so late, but Elena's chest tightened. Is she okay? She's fine, physically, but she's agitated, asking for you. I know visiting hours are over, but if you could maybe just talk to her on the phone, sometimes that helps. Put her on. Silence. Shuffling. Then a voice, thin and confused and achingly familiar. Elena? Hi, Mom. Where are you? You said you'd visit. I know. I'm sorry. I got held up at work. Are you eating? You need to eat. You work too hard. Elena's throat closed. I'm eating, Mom. I promise. Good. Good. You're such a good girl. A pause. Elena? Yeah? Who's Elena? The dementia took her in waves. Some days she was sharp. Most days she wasn't. I am, Mom. I'm Elena, your daughter. Oh, that's nice. She sounded happy, lost. I had a daughter once. She went away. I'm right here. That's good. That's very good. Cheryl came back on the line. She's settling down now. Thank you. Can I talk to you about her bill? I'm a few days behind on this month's payment, but we know. Don't worry about it. Just take care of yourself, okay? Elena hung up, sat in the dark, listened to the building creak and the distant sound of sirens. $8,000 a month. Every month. For a woman who didn't remember her daughter's name half the time but deserved dignity and care and a room with sunlight. That's why Elena worked at the Aurelius. Why she took every shift offered. Why she smiled through Harold Keene's insults and didn't complain when her feet bled. Because the alternative was a state facility. Medicaid warehouses where they kept the lights off to save money and the staff rotated too fast to learn anyone's name. Her mother deserved better. Elena Voss, former staff sergeant, former intelligence operative, former a lot of things she couldn't talk about, poured wine for billionaires because love was expensive and pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. But now that quiet, invisible life was burning, and she had no idea how to stop it. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Elena Voss? Male voice, smooth, confident, vaguely familiar. Who is this? Adrian Cole. We haven't formally met, but I was at the Aurelius tonight. Table 14. She remembered. Tech billionaire. Mid-30s. Had sat quietly through the whole thing, watching with an expression that suggested he was 3 moves ahead of everyone else. How did you get this number? I make it my business to know things. No apology in his tone. I want to offer you a job. I have a job. Not anymore. Gerard fired you. He'll say it was liability concerns, but really it's because you scared him, reminded him how powerless he actually is. Elena's jaw tightened. And you know this how? Because I called him 20 minutes ago and asked. Then I made it clear that firing you would be a mistake. He didn't listen. A pause. So I bought the restaurant. She blinked. You what? The Aurelius. I now own it, along with the parent company and 3 other properties. Gerard will be gone by Monday. You can have your job back if you want it. Or, I don't want it back. Good, because I'm offering you something better. Head of security for Coal Industries, starting salary $300,000, full benefits. Company car. Your mother's care facility fully covered under the health plan. Elena's breath stopped. I don't know what you're talking about. Elena, I know who you are. Not the Waitress version, the real version. His voice dropped. Staff Sergeant Elena Voss. Army Intelligence. Task Force Banshee. 3 tours, Silver Star, classified operations in 6 countries, discharged under circumstances that are mysteriously absent from your public record. Horror and fury warred in her chest. That's sealed. Nothing's sealed if you know who to ask. And I do. Why? Because I watched you tonight. Watched how you moved, how you thought. You're wasted serving food, Elena. You should be protecting something that matters. I don't do that anymore. Everyone says that until they're offered the right opportunity. He paused. Think about it. My office, Monday, 10 a.m. I'll text you the address. I'm not... He'd already hung up. Elena sat in the dark, phone in her hand, while the city hummed outside her window. 3 years. 3 years of flying under the radar. Of building a quiet life. Of pretending the past was something that happened to someone else. All of it, gone in one night. Because she couldn't watch a child cry while armed men threatened her. Because walking away wasn't in her wiring, no matter how hard she tried to reprogram it. Because some part of her, the part that had cleared rooms in Fallujah and interrogated insurgents in black sites and made impossible decisions with incomplete information, was still alive under the surface. And now the world knew it too. Elena stood, walked to her closet, reached to the top shelf, past the winter coat she never wore, pulled down a lockbox. She hadn't opened it in 3 years. The combination still came automatically. Muscle memory. Inside, papers, documents, a passport with a name that wasn't hers, a sat phone that probably didn't work anymore, and at the bottom, wrapped in cloth, something she'd sworn she'd never touch again. Her challenge coin. Task Force Banshee. The unit that officially didn't exist. She held it in her palm. The metal was cool, familiar. On one side, an eagle with a skull. On the other, 3 words in Latin. Silentium est mortem. Silence is death. Elena closed her fingers around it, felt the edges bite into her skin. Then she put it back in the box, locked it, returned it to the shelf. She wasn't that person anymore. But as she climbed into bed and closed her eyes, waiting for sleep that wouldn't come, one thought echoed through her mind. The world had other plans. Sleep never came. Elena lay in the dark, watching headlights crawl across her ceiling, listening to the building settle, counting her breaths until dawn broke gray and cold over Logan Square. At 6 a.m., her phone lit up. Texts, dozens of them. Unknown numbers mostly. A few she recognized, other servers from the Aurelius asking if she was okay, if the rumors were true. One from Marco. Holy shit, call me. She didn't. Instead, she made coffee in the cheap drip machine that came with the apartment, drank it black while watching the news on her laptop. The story had metastasized overnight. Security footage played on loop across every network. Grainy angles showing her disarm the first robber, drop the second, face down the third with a gun in her hand like she'd been born holding it. The cameras had caught enough. Too much. Incredible display of courage and tactical precision. Authorities still investigating the woman's background. Questions about why someone with apparent combat training was working as a waitress. Elena closed the laptop. Her face wasn't fully visible in the footage. Not yet. But it was only a matter of time before someone enhanced the images, ran facial recognition, connected the dots. She had maybe 48 hours before her name went fully public. Maybe less. At 7:30, someone knocked. Elena froze. She hadn't buzzed anyone up, which meant either a neighbor or someone who'd bypassed the building security. She moved to the door, checked the peephole. Carolyn Reeves stood in the hallway, looking improbably put together for 7:30 on a Saturday morning. Tailored coat, designer bag. Expression that suggested she'd already had 3 cups of coffee and won 2 arguments. Elena opened the door. "You don't answer your phone," Carolyn said. "It's been busy." "I can imagine." She held up her own phone. "You're trending, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok. Someone made a fan edit of the security footage set to action movie music. It has 4 million views." Elena's stomach turned. "Can I come in?" Elena stepped aside. Carolyn entered, took in the sparse studio with a single glance that revealed nothing, then set her bag on the counter. "We need to talk about Monday." "What's Monday?" "Adrian Cole's job offer. You're going." "I didn't say I was." "You didn't say you weren't." Carolyn pulled out a tablet, showed Elena a contract. "He sent this over an hour ago, fully executed on his end, just needs your signature." Elena scanned it. The numbers made her head spin. 300,000 base salary, performance bonuses, stock options, benefits that included full medical coverage with no caps, no exclusions, no... She stopped. Read that section again. "This covers pre-existing conditions. Extended care facilities. No maximum lifetime benefit. For you and any dependents, including your mother." Carolyn's expression softened. "He did his homework. This is manipulation. This is business. He needs someone good. You need money. That's not manipulation. That's exchange of value." Elena set down the tablet. "I don't know him. I don't know what he wants. He wants you to protect his people, his assets, his company." Carolyn paused. "And he wants to know why someone with your skill set is pouring wine instead of using it." "My skill set isn't for sale." "Everything's for sale, Elena. We just all have different prices." Carolyn's voice went gentle, dangerous. "Your mother's facility called 3 times yesterday. Did you know that? They're getting worried about payment. They didn't say they'd move her, but they didn't say they wouldn't." The words hit like a fist. Elena turned away, looked out the window at the city waking up below. Cars, people. lives uncomplicated by choices made in the dark. "He knows about Task Force Banshee," she said quietly. "I assumed he did. Adrian Cole doesn't make offers blindly. That unit was classified, above top secret. The fact that he knows it exists means he has access to information most people don't." Carolyn moved beside her. "Elena, I've been doing this for 20 years. Corporate law, criminal defense. I've represented senators and CEOs and people whose names you'd recognize. Adrian Cole is different." "How?" "He doesn't play the same game as everyone else. He's 3 moves ahead. Always." She paused. "But here's the thing. He plays fair. If he says your mother's care is covered, it's covered. If he says you're head of security, you are. No hidden clauses. No bait and switch." "You're sure about that?" "I reviewed the contract personally. It's clean." Elena didn't answer. Outside, a siren wailed past, red and blue lights flashing against the morning. "Monday," Carolyn said. 10 a.m., his office. Just meet with him, hear what he has to say. You don't have to sign anything, but you owe yourself the conversation." She left her card on the counter. Then she walked out, heels clicking on cheap linoleum, leaving Elena alone with a decision that wasn't really a decision at all. Because Carolyn was right. Everything had a price, and Elena's was $8,000 a month, plus dignity, plus the ability to sleep at night knowing her mother wasn't staring at blank walls in a facility that smelled like industrial cleaner and gave up. The weekend crawled. Elena stayed inside, ignored calls, deleted emails, watched the story evolve from local news to national curiosity to full-blown media obsession. By Sunday morning, someone had leaked her name. Elena Voss, former military, honorable discharge, currently employed, formerly employed, at the Aurelius. The reporters descended. They camped outside her building, knocked on doors, interviewed neighbors who barely knew her name. She was quiet, kept to herself, never caused trouble. Always said hello, seemed nice. The generic descriptions of someone who'd worked very hard to be forgettable. By Sunday night, they'd found her mother. A news crew showed up at Millbrook, tried to get an interview. The facility shut them down. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Hero Waitress works to support mother with dementia. The narrative wrote itself. Elena sat in her apartment, curtains drawn, while strangers turned her life into content. At 9 p.m., her phone rang. Adrian Cole. Not a text this time, a call. She answered. "Have you been outside?" he asked. "No." "Smart. They're circling like sharks. I can make them go away." "How?" "By giving them a better story. You, me." Monday morning, press conference announcing your new position, controlled narrative, managed message. You come out of this looking like exactly what you are, someone who shouldn't be wasted. "I never asked for this." No one asks for the moment that changes everything. It just happens. What matters is what you do next. His voice dropped. "Elena, I'm not trying to exploit you. I'm trying to give you an option that doesn't involve hiding in your apartment while the world decides who you are." She closed her eyes. "What time Monday?" 9 a.m. My driver will pick you up at 8:30. "I can take the train." "You can, but there are 17 reporters currently staked outside your building. The driver has tinted windows and knows the service entrance." Elena almost laughed. Almost. "Fine. Good. And Elena? Wear whatever you're comfortable in. This isn't about performance. It's about truth." He hung up. Elena sat in the dark for a long time after that. Monday morning arrived wrapped in fog. The driver, a quiet man in his 50s who introduced himself as James, did exactly what Adrian promised. Service entrance, tinted windows, a route that avoided the media entirely. Cole Industries occupied the top 15 floors of a glass tower in the Loop, the kind of building that looked like it was made of money and ambition. James escorted her to a private elevator. Biometric scanner. No buttons. It simply rose. The doors opened onto a space that didn't look like an office. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture. Art that was probably worth more than Elena's entire life. And in the center, a conference table where Adrian Cole stood reviewing something on a tablet. He looked up, smiled. "Elena, thank you for coming." She'd worn jeans, a black sweater, boots. The only professional clothes she owned were Waitress uniforms and she'd burned those. If Adrian noticed or cared, he didn't show it. Coffee? Water? I'm fine. All right. He gestured to a chair. Sit, please. Elena sat. He did too, across from her, close enough to be personal, far enough to be professional. Before we talk about the job, Adrian said, I want to address the elephant in the room. I know about Task Force Banshee. I know what you did. I know why you left. Elena's jaw tightened. That's classified. It is, and I won't repeat it. But I need you to understand, I'm not offering you this position because you went viral. I'm offering it because I've been tracking you for 6 months. The world tilted. What? I've been looking for someone like you. Someone with your specific skill set. Someone who understands operational security, threat assessment, crisis management. He leaned forward. Someone who doesn't lose their head when the world catches fire. You've been stalking me. I've been doing due diligence. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. Adrian's expression didn't change. Fair. Let me be clear then. I don't need a bodyguard. I need someone who can build a security infrastructure from the ground up. Someone who thinks 3 moves ahead. Someone who can protect not just me, but 3,000 employees, 12 locations worldwide, and assets that include some very dangerous technology. What kind of technology? The kind that people kill for. He pulled up something on his tablet, turned it toward her. Schematics, designs, things Elena didn't fully understand but recognized as cutting edge. We develop AI systems, quantum encryption, biometric security protocols. Half our contracts are with defense contractors. The other half are with governments. He pulled the tablet back. Which means we're a target, constantly. Industrial espionage, foreign intelligence services, hackers, corporate competitors who don't believe in ethical boundaries. You need a security director. I need you. Why me specifically? Because Friday night, you assessed a threat, formulated a response, and executed a plan under pressure with 0 casualties on your side. That's not luck. That's training and instinct working together. He paused. And because when I looked into your record, the parts I could access, I saw someone who made impossible decisions in impossible situations and lived with the consequences. Elena's hands clenched under the table. I'm not that person anymore. You are. You just convinced yourself you weren't. Adrian stood, walked to the window. Chicago sprawled below, sunlight breaking through the fog. Elena, you can go back to hiding, get another service job, keep your head down. Hope the media loses interest. Maybe they will, probably they won't, or I can work for you. You can build something that matters. Use skills you've spent years pretending you don't have. Make enough money to take care of your mother and yourself without sacrificing everything. He turned, met her eyes. I'm not asking you to be a soldier again. I'm asking you to be the person who protects the people who can't protect themselves, which, from what I've seen, is what you've always been. Silence stretched. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, Elena felt the walls of her carefully constructed quiet life finally, completely collapse. What's the catch? She asked. No catch. But full disclosure, this job is dangerous. We've had 3 serious security breaches in the past year. One resulted in stolen prototypes. Another in a kidnapping attempt on one of our lead researchers. The third, he paused. The third is classified, but it's why I need someone like you. Someone expendable. Someone capable. His voice went hard. I don't throw people away, Elena. That's not how I operate. But I won't lie to you either. You take this job, you'll be a target. People will come after you, some with lawyers, some with worse. And if I say no, then I thank you for your time and wish you well. No hard feelings, no pressure. He pulled out a pen, set it on the contract. But I think you already know what you're going to do. Elena looked at the contract, the pen. The man standing in front of her offering her a way out that looked suspiciously like a way back in. Every instinct screamed to walk away. But instincts had kept her alive in war zones, had made her good at a job she'd tried to forget, had turned her into someone who couldn't watch a child cry without acting. Maybe instincts knew better than fear. She picked up the pen. I want full operational authority, no oversight on tactical decisions. And if something goes wrong, I don't take the fall for someone else's politics. Adrian smiled. Done. I want a team, my choice, my vetting. No one gets hired without my approval. Agreed. And my mother's care facility. I want it in writing that it's covered, forever, no caps, no conditions. Already in the contract, paragraph 17. Elena scanned it. He was right. She signed. Adrian extended his hand. Welcome to Cole Industries, Ms. Voss. She shook it. His grip was firm, confident. When do I start? Now. He checked his watch. Press conference is in 20 minutes. We'll announce your appointment, take a few questions, establish the narrative. I don't do press conferences. You do now. He guided her toward the door. Don't worry, I'll do most of the talking. You just stand there and look competent, which you are. Adrian. He stopped, turned. Why are you really doing this? Elena asked. And don't tell me it's just because I'm qualified. There are hundreds of people with my background. Thousands. What makes me different? Adrian was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because when I watched that security footage, I didn't see someone trying to be a hero. I saw someone doing math, calculating odds, making the choice that had the highest probability of everyone living. He stepped closer. Most people in crisis are ruled by emotion, fear, anger, panic. You're ruled by logic, by training, by the part of your brain that shuts down the noise and focuses on the problem. He paused. That's rare. And in my world, rare is valuable. Before Elena could respond, a woman appeared in the doorway. Mid-20s, sharp suit, tablet in hand. Mr. Cole, they're ready for you. Thank you, Michelle. He turned to Elena. Ready? No, not even close, but she nodded anyway. The press conference was in a room 2 floors down. Glass walls, city view. 20 reporters with cameras and microphones and questions they were dying to ask. Adrian walked in like he owned the room, which, technically, he did. Elena followed. Stood to his left, hands clasped, expression neutral, flash bulbs, murmured conversations, the rustle of anticipation. Adrian stepped to the podium. Thank you all for coming on short notice. I'll keep this brief. As of today, Cole Industries is pleased to announce the appointment of Elena Voss as our Chief Security Officer. The room erupted. Questions flew like bullets. Mr. Cole, is this related to Friday's incident? Ms. Voss, how do you respond to critics who say you used excessive force? What are your qualifications? Is it true you were dishonorably discharged? That last one cut through the noise like a knife. Elena's jaw tightened, but before she could respond, Adrian raised a hand. Let me address that directly. Ms. Voss was honorably discharged from the United States Army after 4 years of exemplary service. Any suggestion otherwise is categorically false. His voice went cold. And any outlet that prints otherwise will hear from our legal team. Silence. Sharp. Cutting. As for her qualifications, Adrian continued, they speak for themselves. Ms. Voss will be implementing a comprehensive security overhaul across all Cole Industries properties. She has full operational authority and my complete confidence. More questions. Adrian fielded them, smooth, controlled, giving just enough information to satisfy without revealing anything substantive. Elena stood beside him, silent, while the cameras captured every angle. Then one reporter, young woman, sharp eyes, asked the question Elena had been dreading. Ms. Voss, what do you say to people who think you're dangerous, that someone with your capabilities shouldn't be in a civilian role? The room went quiet. Adrian looked at Elena. Subtle invitation. Your call. She stepped to the microphone. I'd say they're right to be cautious. Her voice carried, steady, clear. What I did Friday was dangerous. It could have gone very differently. People could have died, including me. She paused. But I was trained to assess risk and respond appropriately. That's what I did, and I'd do it again. So you don't regret your actions? I regret that it was necessary. I don't regret the outcome. Another reporter jumped in. What about the 3 men you injured? 2 have broken bones. 1 has a concussion. Do you feel any responsibility for that? Elena's expression didn't change. I feel responsible for the 47 people who walked out of that restaurant alive, including those 3 men. I could have killed them. I chose not to. The silence that followed felt heavy. Then a voice from the back. Male. Familiar. Harold Keene. He stood, expensive suit, practiced smile. Elena, I just want to say, on behalf of everyone who was there Friday night, thank you. You saved lives, including mine. The camera swiveled, captured his moment. Elena met his eyes, saw the calculation behind the gratitude, the way he was writing her story to rehabilitate his own image. She didn't call him out, didn't expose him, just nodded once. You're welcome. Keen sat, looking satisfied, like he'd just scored points in a game only he was playing. Adrian wrapped up the conference, thanked everyone. Guided Elena out through a side door as the reporters shouted final questions. In the hallway, Elena exhaled. You did well, Adrian said. I felt like a trained SEAL. Welcome to corporate life, he checked his phone. I have meetings. Michelle will get you set up, office, equipment, access credentials. Start reviewing our current security protocols. Identify weaknesses. We'll meet tomorrow to discuss your initial assessment. That fast? We don't have time to waste. He started to walk away, then stopped. Elena, one more thing. Yeah? The people you'll be protecting, they're good people, smart, idealistic. They're trying to build things that make the world better. His expression hardened. Don't let anyone hurt them. It wasn't a request. It was an order. And Elena, former staff sergeant, former operative, former ghost, recognized the weight of command when she heard it. I won't, she said. Adrian nodded. Then he disappeared into a conference room, already on his phone, already 3 moves ahead. Elena stood alone in the hallway. Michelle appeared. Ms. Voss? If you'll follow me. They took the elevator up, past executive offices, past meeting rooms where people in expensive clothes made expensive decisions, to the top floor. Corner office, windows on 2 sides, view that stretched to the lake. This is yours, Michelle said. Mr. Cole had it cleared this morning. Elena walked in slowly. Desk, chair, empty shelves, computer that probably cost more than her old car. On the desk, a folder, thick, labeled Current Threat Assessment. She opened it. Reports, incidents, breach attempts, each one documented with clinical precision. Dates, times, methods. The most recent was flagged urgent. Elena read it twice. Then she picked up the phone, dialed Adrian's extension. He answered immediately. Yes? You said you had 3 serious breaches, the third one, the classified one. What about it? It's not in this file. Silence. Then, no, it wouldn't be. Adrian, what happened? Someone tried to kill me, he said quietly. 3 months ago. Professional hit. They failed. Barely. Another pause. The person who stopped it is the reason I needed a new chief security officer. She died doing it. The words landed like stones. You didn't mention that in the interview. Would it have changed your answer? Elena looked out the window, at the city below, at the people who had no idea what lived in the shadows of their comfortable lives. No, she said. I know. Adrian's voice softened. Her name was Sarah Chen. She was good, one of the best, but she missed something, one angle, one threat, and it cost her everything. What do you want me to learn from that? That being good isn't enough. You have to be perfect, every time, because the people hunting us don't miss twice. He hung up. Elena set down the phone, stood in her new office with its expensive view and its impossible mandate. Then she opened her laptop and got to work. Because somewhere in this building, in this company, in this ecosystem of brilliant people building dangerous things, there was a weakness, a crack in the armor. And someone, somewhere, was already planning how to exploit it. Elena's job was to find it first, or die trying, just like Sarah Chen. The file on Sarah Chen was thin, too thin. Elena spread the contents across her new desk. 3 incident reports, 2 personnel evaluations, 1 autopsy summary that reduced a human life to clinical observations about bullet trajectories and time of death. Shot twice. Center mass. Professional hit. She'd been entering her apartment when it happened. No witnesses, no suspects, case still open. 3 months ago. Elena pulled up the security footage from that night. Cole Industries had copies. Adrian kept everything. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. Sarah Chen, late 30s, athletic build, walked toward her apartment door with keys in hand, alert, aware, moving like someone who understood threat assessment. Then two flashes. Muzzle fire from across the street. Sarah dropped. The shooter was gone before her body hit the ground. Elena watched it 3 times, froze frames, analyzed angles. The shot came from an office building under renovation. Empty. No security. Perfect sniper nest. Whoever killed Sarah Chen knew her patterns, her route, her schedule, which meant they'd been watching for weeks, maybe months. Elena closed the laptop, looked out at the city. Someone had gotten close enough to Adrian's head of security to execute her, which meant the threat wasn't random, wasn't opportunistic. It was personal, calculated, and still active. She opened her phone, texted Adrian. Need full access to Sarah Chen's files, everything. No redactions. The response came 30 seconds later. Done. Check your secure server. Password Banshee_7. Elena's blood went cold. That password, that specific combination, no one should know that except... Her phone rang. Adrian. How do you know that call sign? She asked without preamble. Because I know who you really were, Elena. Not just what's in your file. I know about Fallujah, about the interpreter, about the choice you made. The world stopped. Fallujah, the interpreter, the choice, things that existed only in classified after-action reports and her nightmares. You need to explain, Elena said, voice flat and dangerous, how a civilian tech CEO has access to Black Operations files. Because I used to be part of the system. Adrian's voice carried weight, old weight, different branch, different focus, but same world. I got out. Started this company, but I never stopped paying attention to who was good. No, that doesn't give you the right to... I'm not using it against you. I'm trusting you with the truth. He paused. Sarah was good, but she didn't have your background, your experience. When someone came for me, she reacted instead of anticipated. It cost her life. And you think I won't make the same mistake? I think you've already made harder choices under worse circumstances. And you're still here. Elena closed her eyes, saw sand, heat, a woman with frightened eyes begging for help, while gunfire echoed through narrow streets. Don't dig into my past, Adrian. You won't like what you find. I already did, and I hired you anyway. His voice softened. Check the server. Everything you need is there. And Elena, I'm sorry about Sarah, but I'm not sorry you're here now. He hung up. Elena sat in silence for a long moment. Then she logged into the secure server. The files were extensive. Sarah Chen's complete employment history, security assessments, incident reports, personal notes, emails, and at the bottom, a folder labeled Active Threats. Elena opened it. Her screen filled with names, photos, organizations, foreign intelligence services trying to steal AI prototypes, corporate competitors engaged in industrial espionage, hacktivist groups targeting coal industries for its defense contracts, criminal syndicates looking for vulnerabilities to exploit, and one file that made her stop breathing, Project Looking Glass. She clicked it. Classified documents, intercepted communications, financial transactions routing through shell companies in countries that didn't ask questions. Someone was paying a lot of money to get very close to Adrian Cole, not just to steal from him, to destroy him. The last entry was dated 2 weeks ago. Asset confirmed in building. Identity unknown. Recommend immediate internal audit. Sarah Chen had found a mole. Someone inside Coal Industries was feeding information to whoever wanted Adrian dead, and then Sarah died before she could expose them. Elena's jaw tightened. She opened a new document, started building a matrix, cross-referencing access logs with incident reports, looking for patterns, anomalies. The digital fingerprints people left when they thought no one was watching. 3 hours later, she had a list. 47 employees with access to sensitive areas, 23 with security clearances, 8 who'd been hired in the past 6 months, 3 who'd logged into systems during off hours with no documented reason, not proof, but a starting point. Elena printed the list, grabbed her jacket. Time to start asking questions people wouldn't want to answer. The engineering floor was controlled chaos. Researchers hunched over workstations, whiteboards covered in equations that looked like alien language. The air smelled like coffee and jiaolu. Elena moved through it with purpose, eyes tracking, assessing. A young man, maybe 25, MIT sweatshirt, exhausted eyes, nearly walked into her. "Sorry, didn't see you." "You work here?" Elena asked. "Yeah, research division. You're new." "Elena Voss, chief security officer." His expression shifted. Recognition. "You're the waitress from the news." "I'm the CSO. The waitress was last week." "Right, sorry." He extended a hand. "Raj Patel, quantum encryption team." Elena shook it, noted the slight tremor. Caffeine or nerves? Probably both. "Raj, you keep odd hours?" "We all do. Project deadline next month. Everyone's pulling nights." "All of you?" "Most. Some more than others." He glanced around, lowered his voice. "Is this about Sarah?" Elena's attention sharpened. "You knew her?" "Everyone knew her. She was intense, but good. Made sure we didn't do stupid things like leave classified materials on our desks." His expression clouded. "I still can't believe what happened." "Did she seem worried before it happened?" Raj hesitated. "Yeah, actually, last time I saw her, maybe a week before, she was asking questions about who had access to certain servers, who was working late, like she was looking for something." "Did she say what?" "No, but she told me to be careful, said if anything seemed off, I should report it immediately." He paused. 2 days later, she was dead. Elena filed that away. "If you remember anything else, you come find me, directly, not through channels." "Why not through channels?" "Because Sarah went through channels. Look where it got her." Raj's face went pale. He nodded. Elena continued through the building, talking to people, watching reactions, building a picture of who Sarah Chen had been and what she'd discovered. By late afternoon, a pattern emerged. Sarah had been investigating the finance department, specifically procurement, large purchases that didn't quite add up, equipment ordered but never received, invoices from companies that existed only on paper. Someone was embezzling and using the cover of legitimate business to funnel money out. But embezzlement didn't get you killed. Not like that. Unless the money wasn't the point. Unless it was funding something else. Elena took the elevator to the finance floor, found the director, a woman named Patricia Webb, 50-something, tailored suit, expression that suggested she counted everything, including the seconds you wasted. "Ms. Voss, I heard you'd be making rounds." "I need to see your procurement records, last 18 months. Patricia's smile was ice. "That's sensitive financial information. I'll need authorization from Mr. Cole." "You're looking at the authorization. I'm CSO. That means I have access to anything I deem relevant to security. The protocol requires..." Elena stepped closer, not threatening, just present. "Sarah Chen requested these same records 3 months ago. You delayed. She escalated. You delayed again. 2 weeks later, she was murdered." She paused. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me those records right now, or I'm going to call Adrian and have you removed from this building while I go through every file myself." Patricia's jaw tightened, but she turned to her computer, pulled up the files, transferred them to a thumb drive. "There, satisfied?" "Not yet." Elena took the drive. "Who else has access to these accounts?" "Just me and my deputy, Marcus." "Where's Marcus now?" "Day off. Said he had personal business." "When did he last take a day off?" Patricia frowned, checked her calendar. "He hasn't. Not in 8 months. Get me his address, his phone, his full employment history." I don't care what you think." Elena's voice went cold. "Do it now, or explain to Adrian why you're obstructing a security investigation." Patricia's fingers flew across the keyboard, printed a sheet, handed it over with barely concealed anger. Elena took it, walked out without another word. Back in her office, she cross-referenced Marcus Davies with Sarah's notes. He'd been hired 7 months ago. Impressive credentials, stellar references, background check clean, too clean. Elena dug deeper, called in a favor from someone who still owed her from the old days. 20 minutes later, her phone rang. "Voss, it's Kravitz. Tell me." "Your guy Marcus Davies. He's a ghost. Real Marcus Davies died in a car accident 4 years ago. Whoever's using his identity is good. They built a complete legend. But I found cracks. Bank accounts that don't match spending patterns. An apartment he's renting but never stays at. Vehicle registered to an LLC that doesn't exist. Where is he really? Can't say for sure, but I pulled traffic cam footage near Cole Industries. Your Marcus has been meeting someone, same person, same location, every Tuesday for the past month. Send me everything. Already did. Check your secure email. Kravitz paused. Elena, be careful. Whoever this is, they're connected, professional. This isn't some amateur hour embezzlement scheme. I know. She opened the files. Photos. Grainy but clear enough. Marcus Davies meeting a woman, late 30s, sharp features, government haircut. Elena ran facial recognition. The match came back in seconds. Monica Reeves, former CIA, terminated 3 years ago under circumstances listed as administrative, which was agency speak for we caught you doing something we couldn't prosecute but couldn't ignore. Elena dug into Monica's history, connections, associates, known contacts, and there it was. Monica Reeves had worked with a private military contractor, the same contractor that had tried to acquire Cole Industries' quantum encryption patents 2 years ago. Adrian had refused to sell. 1 month later, the first accident happened, a fire in a research lab. No casualties, but significant data loss. Sarah Chen had flagged it as suspicious. Elena opened her phone, called Adrian. I found your mole, she said. Who? Marcus Davies, finance department. He's not who he claims to be, and he's working with someone who's very interested in destroying you. Silence. Then, where is he now? Unknown. Took a personal day. I'm tracking his phone, but it's off. Elena, if he knows we're onto him, he'll run, or he'll activate whatever contingency plan he has in place. She stood, grabbed her jacket. I need a tactical team. Now. People you trust, absolutely. I don't have... Then I go alone. No. Wait. There's someone. Adrian's voice changed. His name is Thomas Reeve, former Delta. He's been consulting for me on physical security. I'll send him to you. How long? He's in the building. 2 minutes. Elena moved to the door, stopped. Adrian, if this goes wrong, it won't. If it does, my mother. The contract, you honor it regardless. I will. I promise. She hung up. 2 minutes later, someone knocked. Elena opened the door. The man standing there was 6'2", built like he was carved from granite, with eyes that had seen things and scars that proved it. Thomas Reeve, he said. Adrian said you need backup. Can you shoot? Better than most. Can you follow orders? Depends on the orders. Elena almost smiled. We're going after a hostile asset, potentially armed, definitely trained. Rules of engagement, contain if possible, neutralize if necessary. Thomas nodded. What's the target? Someone trying to finish what they started with Sarah Chen. His expression hardened. I liked Sarah. Let's go get this piece of trash. They took an unmarked car. Thomas drove while Elena coordinated. Marcus's phone finally pinged. A cell tower in an industrial area south of the city. Abandoned warehouses, rail yards. The kind of place where people went when they didn't want to be found. He's meeting someone, Elena said. Or he's running. Or it's a trap, Thomas added. Also possible. They arrived at dusk. The area was deserted except for a few rusted shipping containers and buildings with broken windows. Marcus's car sat outside a warehouse. Empty. Elena and Thomas approached on foot. Silent. Weapons drawn. Elena had requisitioned a Glock from Cole Industries' armory. Thomas carried something that looked military-grade and highly illegal. They cleared the perimeter, checked sight lines, identified exits. Then they heard voices inside. Elena signaled. Thomas moved to the side entrance. She took the front. On 3. 1, 2, 3. They breached simultaneously. Inside, Marcus Davies and Monica Reeves, standing over a laptop, reviewing something that looked like building schematics. Coal Industries' main office. Freeze! Elena's voice cut through the space. Hands where I can see them! Marcus spun, reached for something. Thomas fired, not to kill, a precision shot that took Marcus in the shoulder. He dropped screaming. Monica moved faster, knocked over the table, drew a pistol. Elena didn't hesitate. She fired twice. Center mass. Monica fell. The warehouse went silent except for Marcus's sobbing. Elena approached Monica, kicked the gun away, checked for a pulse. Still alive. Barely. Call it in, Elena told Thomas. Medical, police. We need them both alive. Thomas pulled out his phone. Elena knelt beside Marcus, pressed her knee into his gunshot wound. He screamed. What were you planning? She demanded. Nothing. I don't... She pressed harder. Sarah Chen found you, so you had her killed. Then you stayed, kept feeding information. Why? You don't understand. Make me understand. Marcus's face twisted. Pain, fear, something else. They have my daughter, my real daughter. They said if I didn't help them, they'd kill her. Elena's pressure eased slightly. Who has her? I don't know. Monica handled everything. She just gave me orders. Said if I completed the job, they'd let her go. What job? Tomorrow. Building evacuation drill. But it's not a drill. His voice broke. They're going to detonate something during the evacuation. When everyone's grouped together. Elena's blood turned to ice. Where's the device? I don't know. Monica planted it. Somewhere in the building. I just had to make sure the systems were vulnerable. Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer. Elena looked at Monica, still breathing but unconscious. If you're lying to me, Elena said quietly, I'll make sure your daughter knows you chose cowards over courage. I'm not lying, please. You have to find her. The police arrived. Paramedics. Thomas handled the debrief while Elena stepped outside. Called Adrian. We have a problem, she said. She explained everything. The bomb, the evacuation drill, the timeline. Adrian listened without interrupting. We evacuate for real, he said finally. Right now, tonight. Get everyone out. If we do that, we tip our hand. Whoever's running Monica will know we're onto them. They'll detonate remotely, or they'll disappear. Then what do you suggest? Elena looked at the warehouse, at the blood on the concrete, at Marcus being loaded into an ambulance with handcuffs already on. We run the drill, she said. Exactly as planned. But we find the device first, disarm it. Then we catch whoever's pulling the strings. That's a hell of a risk. Sarah took risks. It killed her, but she was right to try. Elena paused. I'm better than she was. Trust me. Silence stretched, then, all right, you have 12 hours, find that bomb. And Elena, don't die. The paperwork would be terrible. He hung up. Elena stood in the darkness, listening to the city breathe, feeling the weight of 3,000 lives resting on her ability to be perfect. Just like Adrian said, be perfect. Or die trying. She got back in the car. Where to? Thomas asked. Back to the office. We have a bomb to find. They drove through the night, silent, focused. Inside, Elena pulled building schematics, maintenance records, security logs, anything that showed where someone could hide an explosive device. Thomas helped. His Delta background meant he understood demolitions, blast radius, optimal placement for maximum casualties. If I wanted to kill the most people, he said, studying the plans, I'd put it here. He pointed to the main atrium. Central location, structural weakness in the support columns. Device goes off during evacuation, the whole lobby comes down. That's where everyone gathers during the drill. Exactly. Elena checked the maintenance logs. Elevator repair scheduled last week. Contractor we don't normally use. That's your vector. They went to the atrium. 3 a.m. now. Building empty except for night security. Elena dismissed them, claimed she was running a security audit. They searched for 2 hours, found it behind an access panel near the main support column. Military grade C4. Remote detonator. Timer set for 10 a.m. Exactly when the evacuation drill was scheduled. Thomas studied it. I can disarm this, but whoever set it will know the second the signal goes dead. Then we don't disarm it, we move it. Elena pulled out her phone, called Adrian. I need an empty building nearby, somewhere we can evacuate and contain a blast. There's a parking structure 2 blocks south, condemned, scheduled for demolition next month. Perfect. Send me the address. She turned to Thomas. Can you move this without setting it off? Probably. That's not encouraging. It's honest. He grinned. Let's do it. They carefully extracted the device. Thomas cradled it like a newborn. They walked it out through a service exit, drove to the parking structure in absolute silence, placed it on the top level. Open air, no nearby buildings. Now what? Thomas asked. Now we wait for someone to trigger it remotely. When they do, we trace the signal. They set up surveillance. Elena coordinated with a tech specialist Adrian sent, a woman named Yuki who looked too young to be handling this but moved with absolute confidence. 8 a.m. Employees started arriving at Coal Industries. 9 a.m. Normal operations. No one knew what had almost happened. 9:50 a.m. Evacuation alarm sounded, just like the drill planned. People filed out calmly, practiced, safe. 10 a.m. Elena's phone buzzed. Yuki, signal detected. They're trying to detonate. The parking structure lit up like the sun. The blast wave shattered windows 2 blocks away. Concrete and steel collapsed in a cloud of dust that rose like a funeral pyre. But no casualties, no deaths, just property damage. Got the trace, Yuki said through the comms. Signal originated from a hotel, room 847. Uploading location now. Elena and Thomas were already moving. The hotel was luxury, corporate, anonymous. They breached room 847 with hotel security in tow. Empty, but recently occupied. Laptop still warm on the desk. Elena checked the browser history, found encrypted communications, routing information, and one thing the user forgot to delete, a wire transfer receipt paid to Monica Reeves from a shell corporation, owned by Harold Keene. Elena stared at the name. Harold Keene. The billionaire who'd mocked her at the Aurelius, who'd tried to tackle the robber, who'd thanked her publicly at the press conference. He'd been behind everything. Her phone rang. Adrian. Tell me you're safe. We're fine. Building's fine. Everyone's fine. She paused. It was Harold Keene. Silence. Then a sound like breaking glass. Are you certain? Financial trail leads directly to him. He paid Monica. Monica hired Marcus. They planned to destroy your company and make it look like a security failure. Why? Because you wouldn't sell him the quantum encryption patents, so he decided if he couldn't have them, no one would. More silence. What do you need? Adrian asked. Everything you have on Keene, financials, communications. I'm taking this to the FBI. He's not walking away from this. Done. I'll have it couriered within the hour. Elena hung up, looked at Thomas. We need to move fast. Keene will run the second he realizes his plan failed. But when they arrived at Keene's penthouse with federal agents, he was gone. Private jet. Filed a flight plan to a country without extradition. Except the jet never made it. Adrian Cole, it turned out, had friends in interesting places. The plane was diverted. Forced to land, Keene was arrested on the tarmac. Elena watched the news footage from her office. Keene in handcuffs, shouting about lawyers, about persecution, about how this was all a misunderstanding. The man who'd called her invisible now faced charges that would guarantee he'd never see freedom again. Adrian appeared in her doorway. You did it, he said. We did it. Elena turned. Sarah started this. I just finished it. She'd be proud. She'd be alive if I'd been here sooner. Don't do that. Don't carry her death. Adrian stepped into the office. You saved 3,000 people today. That counts for something. Elena nodded, but the weight didn't lift. Take the rest of the week, Adrian said. See your mother. Rest. You've earned it. There's too much to do, and it'll still be here Monday. Go, Elena. That's an order. She went. Drove to Millbrook. Sat with her mother in a room that smelled like flowers instead of antiseptic. Her mother didn't recognize her that day. Called her by her sister's name, a sister Elena had never had. But she smiled, held Elena's hand, talked about memories that never happened and people who didn't exist. And Elena sat there, listening, letting the storm inside her settle into something quieter. Later, walking out, the director stopped her. Ms. Voss, your account. It's been paid, in full, for the next 10 years. Elena blinked. What? Mr. Cole's office called, said it was covered under your employment contract. We've never seen anything like it. Elena stepped outside into cool evening air, pulled out her phone, texted Adrian. You didn't have to do that. His response, yes, I did. That was the deal. I keep my promises. She stood there looking at her phone, at the facility behind her, at the life she'd somehow stumbled into. 3 weeks ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was the person who'd stopped a terrorist attack, exposed a billionaire, saved thousands, all because she couldn't watch a child cry without acting. Elena got in her car, drove back to the city, past the Aurelius, permanently closed now, awaiting new ownership, past her old apartment building where reporters had finally stopped camping, to her new place. Company housing, Adrian had insisted, secure building, real amenities, space enough to breathe. She unlocked the door, stood in the silence. On the counter, a package. She opened it. Inside, a framed photo. Sarah Chen in tactical gear, smiling at the camera with the confidence of someone who knew exactly who she was. And a note in Adrian's handwriting. She'd want you to have this. Finish what she started. Make them remember that silence isn't death. It's the moment before the storm. Elena set the photo on her desk, looked at Sarah's smile, and made a promise to a dead woman who'd died trying to protect people she'd never met. This job wouldn't kill her. She wouldn't let it, because she wasn't Sarah Chen. She was Elena Voss. And she'd survived worse than billionaires and bombs. She'd survived becoming invisible and finding her way back to being seen. That was harder than anything they could throw at her. The apartment still felt too quiet. Elena stood by the window, coffee going cold in her hands, watching the city wake up. 6 a.m. The streets below filled with people who didn't know how close they'd come to dying, didn't know that their Monday morning commute had almost ended in rubble and blood. They'd never know. That was the job. The real job. Not the press conferences or the headlines, just the quiet work of keeping people safe while they lived their lives without fear. Sarah's photo watched from the desk. Elena had tried moving it twice. Both times, she'd put it back. Some ghost deserved to be remembered. Her phone buzzed. Text from Adrian. Board meeting, 9 a.m. Your presence requested. Not required. Requested. Which meant this wasn't about security protocols or threat assessments. Elena dressed carefully. Black suit. White shirt. The clothes felt foreign after 3 years of waitress uniforms and casual invisibility. But they fit, like armor that had been waiting for her to remember how to wear it. The boardroom occupied the entire top floor. Glass walls. Conference table that could seat 30. 12 people waited when Elena entered. Adrian at the head, board members she recognized from photos, and a few faces she didn't know. Thomas Reeves stood in the corner, arms crossed, looking like security. Ms. Voss, Adrian gestured to an empty chair. Please, sit. She sat, felt every eye in the room assess her. A woman in her 60s, sharp gray suit, sharper eyes, spoke first. I'm Catherine Worth, board chair. We've been reviewing the incident from last week. Yes, ma'am. You prevented a terrorist attack, stopped a conspiracy, exposed a mole, all within your first week of employment. Catherine's expression was unreadable. That's either remarkable competence or remarkable luck. It was both, Elena said, with respect. Someone down the table, a younger man, tech startup money written all over him, cleared his throat. Ms. Voss, your methods were aggressive. You shot someone. You tortured a suspect for information. I applied pressure to a gunshot wound to obtain time-sensitive intelligence about an imminent threat, Elena corrected, which saved 3,000 lives. Semantics. No, precision. Elena leaned forward. You want someone who asks nicely and hopes the bad guys cooperate? Hire a PR firm. You want someone who stops threats before they materialize? You hired the right person. Silence. Catherine smiled, barely. Adrian said you were direct. I don't have time for politics, not when people's lives are at stake. Fair enough. Catherine pulled out a folder. We're not here to reprimand you, Ms. Voss. We're here to expand your mandate. Elena blinked. Expand? Coal Industries is growing, 12 locations worldwide, offices in Singapore, London, Tel Aviv, each one a potential target. We need coordinated security across all facilities. Catherine slid the folder across the table. We want you to build it. Full autonomy, budget discretion, hire whoever you need, report directly to this board. Elena opened the folder, saw numbers that made her head spin. This is expensive, Adrian finished, but worth it. You've proven that. He leaned back. The question is, do you want it? Elena looked around the table, at faces that represented billions in combined wealth, power that shaped industries, people who'd never been invisible a day in their lives. And they were asking her, the woman who'd poured their wine and swallowed their insults, to protect them. The irony wasn't lost on her. I have conditions, Elena said. Catherine raised an eyebrow. Such as? I choose my team. No nepotism, no board favorites. If someone doesn't meet my standards, they don't get hired. Agreed. I want quarterly reviews, not of my methods, of threat assessment. If we're missing something, I need to know immediately. Done. And I want Sarah Chen's name on something permanent, a memorial, a scholarship, something that reminds people what she gave. The room went quiet. Adrian spoke softly. The Sarah Chen Security Excellence Award, annual, goes to the coal industry's employee who demonstrates exceptional vigilance and integrity. Full scholarship to any advanced training program of their choice. Elena's throat tightened. She nodded. Then we have a deal, Catherine said. Welcome to the executive team, Ms. Voss. They shook hands, professional, firm. As Elena left, Thomas caught up to her in the hallway. So, Global Security Director, that's a hell of a promotion. It's a target on my back. You say that like it's new. He grinned. You need a deputy? You offering? I'm between gigs, and I like working with people who don't flinch. Elena considered. You're reckless. I'm effective. You don't follow orders well. I follow good orders perfectly. Bad orders I ignore. He shrugged. Haven't gotten me killed yet. She almost smiled. Fine, but you report to me. And if you pull cowboy stunts without clearing them first, you'll shoot me yourself, I get it. Thomas extended his hand. Deal. They shook. Elena spent the next 3 weeks building her team. She recruited from everywhere. Former military, intelligence analysts, cybersecurity experts, people who understood that threats didn't respect borders or business hours. Raj Patel from the quantum encryption team transferred to her department. Turned out his real passion was penetration testing, finding vulnerabilities before attackers did. She hired a woman named Samira Hassan, former Mossad, spoke 6 languages, could disappear into any crowd and extract information people didn't know they'd shared. And she brought on Marcus Davies' daughter. The girl, 18, traumatized, angry, had been rescued from her captors 2 days after Marcus gave up their location. She had nowhere to go, no family left, just rage and a desperate need to make sense of what had happened. Elena gave her a choice. You can spend the rest of your life hating your father for being weak, or you can learn to be strong so no one can ever use you that way again. The girl, Rebecca, chose strength. Elena enrolled her in training programs, self-defense, situational awareness, crisis management, not to turn her into a soldier, to give her back the power that had been stolen. 6 months later, Rebecca stood in Elena's office, confident, clear-eyed. I want to work here, she said, in your department. I want to stop people like the ones who took me. You're 18. You should be in college. I'll do both. Online classes, night school, whatever it takes. Rebecca's voice was steel. You gave me a second chance. Let me use it. Elena studied her, saw herself at that age, saw the same fire that had driven her into the military, into intelligence work, into a life of choosing hard things because someone had to. All right, Elena said, but you start at the bottom, no special treatment. You earn every promotion. I wouldn't want it any other way. Rebecca became Elena's shadow, learning, watching, growing into someone who understood that strength wasn't about violence. It was about making the choice to stand when everyone else fell. The Aurelius reopened under new management. Adrian had sold it to a hospitality group that specialized in second chances, restaurants staffed by people trying to rebuild their lives. Former addicts, ex-convicts, people who'd lost everything and needed a place that believed in redemption. Elena attended the reopening, not as a guest, as someone who'd once belonged there in a different way. Gerard was gone, fired, disgraced. The staff whispered he'd taken a job managing a chain restaurant in the suburbs, still bitter, still diminished. Marco was head chef now. He saw Elena and pulled her into a hug. "You did it," he said. "You actually got out. So did you." "Yeah, but I stayed in my lane. You went nuclear." He laughed. "I saw you on the news, the press conference. You looked terrified." "I was." "Couldn't tell. You looked like you owned the room." He stepped back. "We're proud of you, Elena. All of us. You showed us that invisible doesn't mean powerless." She didn't know what to say to that, so she just nodded. Across the dining room, Harold Keene's table, the VIP section where he'd mocked her about wine, was occupied by a family celebrating a graduation. The daughter wore a cap and gown. Her parents beamed. They had no idea that table had once been ground zero for cruelty disguised as sophistication. Now, it was just a table. Nothing more. Elena left quietly. Didn't say goodbye, just slipped out the way she used to after shifts, through the kitchen, past the prep stations, into the alley where delivery trucks parked. Outside, Chicago sprawled in evening light. She walked for a while. No destination, just movement. Her phone rang. Her mother's facility. She answered expecting the usual, medication questions, billing clarifications. Instead, "Ms. Voss, it's Dr. Patel. I wanted to give you an update on your mother." Elena's heart stopped. "Is she—" "She's fine. Better than fine, actually. The new treatment protocol we started last month, she's responding remarkably well. Her lucidity has improved. Memory recall is up. She's asking for you specifically, by name." Elena had to sit down, found a bench, collapsed onto it. "She remembers me?" "She does. It might not last. Dementia is unpredictable. But right now she knows who you are, and she'd like to see you." Elena was in her car 5 minutes later. Drove to Millbrook with something dangerously close to hope burning in her chest. Her mother sat in the garden. Afternoon sun. Flowers blooming around her. She looked small, fragile. But her eyes, when they found Elena, were clear. "There you are," her mother said. "I was beginning to think you'd forgotten about me." Elena sat beside her, took her hand. "Never. You look different, stronger." Her mother squeezed gently. "What happened to you?" "I remembered who I was." "And who is that?" Elena thought about it, really thought. 3 years ago she'd have said, a soldier, an operative, someone who served. Now? Someone who doesn't walk away, Elena said quietly. Even when it's hard. Even when it costs everything. Her mother smiled. "That's my girl." They sat together while the sun tracked west. Talked about small things, big things. The life Elena was building and the one her mother remembered from before the dementia stole it. "Are you happy?" her mother asked suddenly. Elena considered lying. Considered saying yes because that's what people did. But her mother deserved truth. "I'm getting there," Elena said. "It's harder than I thought. Being seen again. Being responsible for people. But it's better than being invisible." "You were never invisible, sweetheart. Not to the people who mattered." Her mother's grip tightened. "Promise me something. Anything. Don't lose yourself trying to save everyone. Some people can't be saved. Some situations can't be fixed. You can't carry the whole world. Someone has to try. But not alone. Promise me you won't do it alone." Elena looked at her mother, saw the wisdom that survived even when memory didn't. "I promise." They stayed until the nurses said visiting hours were over. Elena kissed her mother's forehead, promised to return soon. Drove back to the city with something lighter in her chest than had been there in years. 1 year later. Coal Industries' annual gala was the kind of event where people wore clothes worth more than cars and made deals that shaped markets. Elena attended because Adrian insisted. "You're executive leadership now. You have to show up." "I'm security. I should be watching from the shadows." "You spent 3 years in the shadows. 1 night in the light won't kill you." She wore a dress. Black. Simple. Elegant in the way that came from confidence rather than cost. moved through the crowd with the same tactical awareness she'd apply to a threat assessment, escape routes, choke points, potential vulnerabilities. Thomas caught her scanning. "You're off duty. Relax." "I'm never off duty." "That's sad." "That's the job." He handed her champagne. "Drink this. Look pretty. Let the actual on-duty team handle security." Elena sipped, scanned anyway. Across the room, Adrian gave a speech, thanked investors, celebrated successes, announced new initiatives. Then he said, "But none of this would be possible without the people who keep us safe, who work behind the scenes, who make impossible decisions so we can focus on innovation." He looked directly at Elena. "This year we're inaugurating the Sarah Chen Security Excellence Award. The first recipient embodies everything Sarah stood for: courage, integrity, and the willingness to stand alone if necessary." A spotlight found Elena. "Elena Voss, would you join me?" Every eye in the room turned. Elena's heart hammered, but she walked forward, steady, controlled. Adrian handed her a plaque, simple, elegant, Sarah's name engraved at the top. "You earned this," Adrian said quietly. "Don't argue." Elena accepted it, looked at the room full of people who'd once been strangers. Some had become colleagues, a few had become friends, and somewhere in this city the people she'd saved went about their lives, unaware, ungrateful, exactly as it should be. She didn't need thanks, she just needed to know she'd made a difference. 6 months after that, Elena got a call from Morrison, the detective who'd questioned her after the Aurelius incident. "Thought you'd want to know," he said. Harold Keene, trial verdict came back. And? Guilty. 14 counts. Conspiracy. Attempted murder. Domestic terrorism. He's looking at life without parole. Elena was silent. "You okay?" Morrison asked. "I'm fine." "You sure? You seem quiet." "I'm just thinking." "About what?" "About how he spent his whole life believing money made him untouchable. And now he's going to die in a cell because he underestimated a waitress." Morrison laughed. Poetic justice. "Something like that." After they hung up, Elena sat in her office, looking at Sarah's photo, at the city beyond her window. Harold Keene would spend the rest of his life paying for his arrogance. Marcus Davies had cut a deal, testimony in exchange for protection for Rebecca. He'd serve time but eventually walk free. Monica Reeves had survived her injuries, faced charges, refused to cooperate. She'd die in prison too. Elena felt nothing about that. No satisfaction, no vindication, just the quiet certainty that some scales balanced themselves. 3 years after the Aurelius, Elena stood in front of a training class. 20 new security recruits, fresh, eager, terrified. "Most of you won't make it through this program," she told them. "Not because you're not smart enough, but because this job requires something most people don't have." A hand went up. Young man, military bearing. "What's that, ma'am?" "The ability to be invisible when necessary and unstoppable when required. To know which one the situation demands, and to make that call in seconds." She walked along the line, studying faces. "You're going to protect people who will never know your name, never thank you, never understand what you gave up to keep them safe." She stopped. "And you're going to be okay with that, because the work is the reward." Rebecca stood in the back row, second-year trainee now, top of her class. She met Elena's eyes, nodded once. "I understand." Elena dismissed the class, returned to her office. On her desk, a letter, hand-delivered. No return address. She opened it carefully. Inside, one page. Typed. "You stopped something terrible. Saved people who didn't deserve saving. Made choices most would never make. This world needs people like you. People who stand in the gap. Thank you for being one of them." No signature. But at the bottom, stamped in ink, a symbol Elena recognized. Task Force Banshee. Someone from her old life. Watching, acknowledging. She read it twice, then burned it in the office shredder. Some recognitions didn't need to be preserved, just felt. That evening, Elena visited her mother. They had dinner together, real conversation. The lucid periods came more frequently now. The medication was working. "Tell me about your day," her mother said. I taught a class, trained new recruits. You like teaching? Elena considered. I like giving people tools to protect themselves, to be strong when they need to be. You're good at that. You always were. Her mother sipped tea. Your father would be proud. Elena's father had died when she was 12. Heart attack, sudden, unfair. She didn't talk about him often. Why do you say that? Because you're doing what he did. Fire department. Running into burning buildings while everyone else ran out. Her mother's eyes were distant, remembering. He said the job wasn't about being a hero. It was about being the person who showed up when things went wrong. That's exactly what he said. Word for word. He told you the same thing before he died. Do you remember? Elena did. Barely. The memory was old, faded, but it was there. Someone has to stand in the gap, sweetheart. Might as well be us. She'd forgotten, or buried it, or convinced herself she'd chosen this path for different reasons. But maybe she'd always been walking toward this, toward being the person who stood when others fell, like her father, like Sarah Chen, like everyone who understood that invisible didn't mean powerless. I remember, Elena said quietly. Her mother smiled. Good. Don't forget again. 5 years after the Aurelius. Elena stood in the same spot she'd stood that night, the dining room, the place where everything changed. The restaurant had transformed. Lighter, warmer. The oppressive elegance replaced with something more human. A memorial hung on the wall, small plaque, in memory of all who serve with quiet courage. No names, just acknowledgement that somewhere people were doing hard things so others could feel safe. Marco emerged from the kitchen, older now, graying at the temples. You come here a lot, he said. Sometimes, when I need to remember. Remember what? That I used to be someone else, and that becoming who I am now costs something. Elena looked around. This place represents the before, when I thought invisible was the same as safe. And now? Now I know better. Invisible just means overlooked, and being overlooked means you can't help anyone, including yourself. Marco nodded. You've changed, in good ways. I hope so. You have. You're still scary, but now you're scary on purpose. He grinned. Want dinner? On the house? I can pay. I know, but your family, and family eats free. They ate together, talked about nothing important, laughed about the old days when Gerard ran the place like a tyrant and everyone lived in fear of his clipboard. When Elena left, she walked past the VIP section one more time, the table where Harold Keene had sat, where he'd mocked her, where he'd proven that cruelty came naturally to people who confused wealth with worth. A couple sat there now, anniversary dinner, holding hands, looking at each other like nothing else existed. They didn't know the history, didn't know what had happened in this space. They were just living, loving, safe, because someone had stood between them and the darkness. Elena walked out into Chicago night. The city hummed around her, millions of lives, millions of stories. She was just one, unremarkable, forgettable, except to the people she'd saved. And that was enough. Her phone buzzed. Adrian, late meeting tomorrow. Potential threat in Singapore. Need your assessment. She typed back, I'll be there. Because that was the job. The real job. Not the headlines. Not the recognition. Not the moments when the world saw you and applauded. Just the quiet work of standing in the gap. Being the person who showed up when things went wrong. Like her father taught her. Like Sarah Chen showed her. Like she'd teach the next generation. Elena Voss walked into the Chicago night. Former waitress. Former invisible woman. Current chief security officer for a company that protected the future. And as she disappeared into the crowd, just another face, just another person, she carried with her the truth that had saved her life and countless others. The strongest people aren't always the loudest. Sometimes they're the ones who stay quiet, who watch, who wait, who understand that real power isn't about being seen. It's about choosing when to be invisible and when to be unstoppable. And knowing the difference might just save the world. Never underestimate the person who chooses silence. They might just be the strongest one in the room, waiting for the moment they're needed most.